So, hello, folks. How are you doing? Oh my God. I hope you're doing fan-frickin-tastic on this lovely Christmas day. Well, here in the U.S. You got a lot of people who celebrate it. You got a lot of people who don't because it's very paganistic, very rooted in paganism. I mean, it is. You can't say that it's not. If you ever wondered about Christmas, you know what I mean? When you first found out there was no Santa Claus, whoops dupsies, right? It should be what's above the tree. Get it? Above, right? Heaven sent instead of below. You know what I mean? That's the true thing. It doesn't really matter. It's the salvation. It's Jesus Christ, folks. Granted, he wasn't born on this day. A lot of people like to associate it with it, but it was somewhere around this date. Some, but not even. You always, even in the Bible, it suggests that there was a regular tree, very paganistic, to put even ornaments on it and all that. Why a Christmas tree? Where did the idea of Santa Claus even originate? And also, why is he wearing a red suit with fur? The exchanging of gifts, the little mistletoe action. I mean, there's a lot going on, and it's very hallmarky. It's but you got to think Christmas. It's Mass of Christ, right? So it's like Christ Mass, right? But Christ Mass, Christmas, it existed like centuries way before Jesus was even born. It didn't even enter Christianity until way after his death. And it didn't really originate in Palestine, but rather it was in Egypt. So you have to think that the connection between Christmas is a variety of pagan practices, right? It's documented throughout the world, okay? Not only on the day, but the symbols exactly. It's also connected to religious practices that was embraced actually in the pagan world. So you got, William Walsh, who pretty much recognized it. So you got the Christmas festival. It's just a lot of its observances are just adaptations of pagan to Christian ceremonies. And Walsh himself connected it to he had a Greek veneration, and it was of their god of Dionysus, and also the Greeks paid homage to Bacchanalia. It's essentially Saturnalia. Okay, Saturn, held in honor of Saturn. Okay, Satan, right, the god of time. All right, it actually began on 17th of December, and it continued for like 7 days. So this just acquired an evil reputation in later times. But it's barbaric, you know what I mean? And it might have been an excuse among the Roman soldiers in the East for human sacrifice. So, why the 25th? It's not really, Christ's birth, it's not determined. There's no certainty to it. Now, Jesus was born, there's some evidence that he was born in the fall. It's just the 25th, it just roots directly to the pagan world. It's pretty much, that's what that is. And, you got Babylon, right? So the time of Nimrod, he was the grandson of Ham, which is also the son of Noah. And, he's the founder of Babylon. So Nimrod, he just, essentially formed, cities. And instead of going out and replenishing the earth as God had commanded Noah to do, one of Noah's accomplishments was building the Tower of Babel. So that, he did it to protect the people, from a threat for, another flood from God. But, the scriptures, it says that Nimrod was a mighty hunter, right? Before the Lord, and that was in Genesis. And obviously the word before is pretty much translated to against, right? And he was a first post-flood dictator, right? In Nimrod, right? So the Hebrew word marad, it means he rebelled, okay? So he rebelled, right? And essentially, what is it all? Ultimately, he rebelled against what? God, okay? And obviously that just created a worldwide apostasy, right? And, to be disgusting with it, I mean, Nimrod married his own mother, so... Ew! But the thing is, when the death arrived, you got the Semiramis, right, so he's teaching, that her son pretty much had been reincarnated in the form of a full-grown evergreen, right, which sprang up from a dead tree stump, right? So now, this intertwines with the anniversary of Nimrod's birthday, which is, December 25th. Do you see that, folks? See, what's here down on earth, it's everything that stems in this beautiful earth, right? When you delve down the rabbit hole, it is all, one, you'll find God. Two, you'll find out that it's against God, the whole entirety of everything. But you see how they do that. See, Nimrod's birthday, December 25th, right? So Semiramis, right? So he would visit the evergreen tree. And so what would they do is that Nimrod would leave gifts for her there. So Semiramis is she's the queen of Babylon. That's what she is. And also, get it, right? So she was regarded as the queen of heaven. You know what I mean? You see where we're getting with this, folks? And then the mother of the divine son. See, Nimrod's divine son? No, sorry, it's Jesus Christ, folks. See? Do you see where this is going? See? And now you got these idolatrous practices. It's funny, this one guy was like, oh man, God was horrible back in the Old Testament. Listen, he was ridding the evil in idolatry. He told them over and over again, which after this, folks, after the New Testament, we're going to delve right into the Old Testament. So we're going to keep on going. But there's always been idolatrous practices, okay? And it's always going against, God. Everyone, every time, everything. Practices to traditions, right? Nimrod came. He was considered the son of Baal. There's a lot of Baal worship these days, okay? You got the sun god. There's all sorts of worship other than God himself. It's just what it is, So, the belief and the practice spread to Egypt. That's basically what happened. And now you got the other gods' names. We got Isis and Osiris, right? So, here we go. You ready? It all parallels. You ready for this, folks? The son of Osiris was born December 25th. Do you see the paganism in it? Okay. Do you see how this is a debauchery against God, Jesus himself? Okay. It's just what it is. And you got, in Rome, they were called Fortuna and Jupiter. Throughout the world, we still find all the remnants of mother and child worship to this day. Do you see how it's always linked? So you got the Mystery Babylon. Shockingly, it is disguised as Christianity and is still practiced in the celebration of Christmas. So it just doesn't really sit well in me. Yes, do we celebrate it, folks? Is it a time for our family to get together and give us gifts? Yes, but the trueness should be the salvation and the remembering of why this man died for us in human form, because we are sinners, and there's no way without him that we would even be accepted by God. Without him, you know what I mean? But we still, to this day, and it's getting worse, okay, because Christianity did not destroy paganism, it adopted it, right? Egypt came the idea of a divine trinity. Then the adoration of the mother and child, right? Then the worship of the Great Mother. So it's a sacrifice of the Mass, right? That Christian fathers charge the devil with inventing these similarities to mislead frail minds. So modern day Christianity was the last great creation of the ancient pagan world. So there's just a wide range of pagan practices that exist to this day, folks. And it became assimilated in the Roman Catholic Church. And then it was embracing the birthday of the sun god and establishing the date of the celebration as December 25th. See, we go down this rabbit hole all day, folks, and I encourage you to do this because it would enlighten you and bring you further to God and make you, hopefully, believe more in Jesus Christ and God. Because no matter how you think of it, it's paganistic, folks. It's just what it is. And the practice of sun worship actually began in early Egypt. So there's a lot of priests, so they made like round water, and it represented the sun, Then they'd eat their wafer, and then what, right? So it symbolizes the sun god's life, and then the nourishment of man's soul. Do you get that? How we take communion? See how this all works? So clearly the church was embracing paganism in an attempt, right? So increase its numbers, so it draw in the non-believing world. But in reality, it was the church being absorbed by the practice beliefs. So it was totally contrary to Christianity. So it's just, like I said, it's to bring family together, folks. But it's just, the date was chosen because it was an accepted date of the winter solstice, But, if you go back into Constantine days, where he came into power in Rome, at the beginning of his rule, it was actually a violation of Roman law to practice Christianity. So Christians were hated by the state, and they're also subjected to, obviously the persecution, which persecution of Christians are happening worldwide, folks, inclusive of the U.S. So, that's just happening. And, inevitably, it would, torture, and burning at the stake. But constantly, he saw something in Christianity. He believed it could be very valuable in holding the empire together, despite the persecution and stuff. But, Christians were, dedicated to their faith, though. And the commitment impressed Constantine. And so that came the Edict of Toleration. But he made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. And the state persecution of Christians actually stopped. But you have to think that, because Christianity became, the state's religion, the church became very political. The doctrines really embraced by the church were just watered down and seriously compromised. So there's actually a book by Jesse Hurlbut, and that describes that period of time around 313 AD, the story of Christian church. So you can, delve yourself into that. But, folks, so very, 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 very pagan festivals, you know what I mean? So that whole merrymaking was popular. all we could do is understand that, Jesus Christ is our Savior, and the Christmas tree is obviously a prominent symbol of the season. Millions of people bring an evergreen tree into their homes, and they decorate it with glass balls, tinsels, lights, all that great stuff. But you got to think, these same millions, they would never think of the Christmas tree as an idol, which God abhors, right? But the tradition of bringing a tree into the home and decorating it came from a fable regarding Saint Boniface. So Saint Boniface cut down the great oak of Jupiter, a tree worshipped by pagan Teutons in Germany. So that is just, it all kind of stems. And Boniface, he proclaimed that the tree was a tree of life and represented Christ. But the problem is that the story, it's strikingly similar to the story of Nimrod and Semiramis, as I said earlier. But the death of Nimrod, and his mother Semiramis, pretty much was, Nimrod reincarnated in the form of an evergreen tree, which sprung up overnight. So the worship of trees and nature is a common practice among the pagans, and it continues to this day. So, believe I knew it all about, folks. So, it's just the presence of tree worship. It's woven way throughout history, all throughout history. Like I said, ancient people of Palestine engaged in it. And they would, tie the tops of the trees together in groves and, make a shrine of nature. But you got to look at it, cut an image. It's like a phallic symbol in the tree and worship before it. So phallic, look at the obelisk that's in Washington, D.C. And you kind of intertwine things, you got to parallel everything. But you got to understand that these practices are abhorrent to God. And in Jeremiah, God illustrates that, he commands his people basically to learn not the way of the heathen, right? And he describes a tradition, which he cuts the tree out of the forest, decorates it, right? But God goes and characterizes his tree as a graven image. Now, people would argue, and they'd say in Jeremiah that's not referring to the Christmas tree, but it misses the point, right? God revealed through Jeremiah is that his children are to avoid practices that resemble those embraced by the pagan world. He didn't say that it was appropriate to modify their practices and call them Christian. The Christmas tree is clearly a symbol of faith that was vastly different from anything advocated by the scriptures, and its origin is paganism, thoroughly supported by the testimony of history, folks. Okay? So, it's equally common in pagan Rome, pagan Egypt. The tree was a palm tree. In Rome, it was a fir. And the palm tree denotes the pagan Messiah as Baal tomorrow, right? The fir referring to him as Baal. See the Baal worship? See, it's all to go against God and Jesus, folks. So, do what you do. It's tradition. What do? You break free from tradition. You grew up with this your whole entire life, right? It's just what it is. I'm not going to get into the whole Santa Claus thing because, that's just... We're just not going to get into that. But I'll say that Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, the saint, right, celebrated in December, and it's got dim traditions of Saturn as the hero of Saturnalia, story of Santa Claus, Satan, there we go. What are you going to do? So, guess what? You know what? I'm Daniel, folks, and this is the Emmanuel Podcast.